Hey guys, I'm going to do a quick overview of yesterday's seminar. My intention was to record it. I had a little bit of a technical issue, technical glitch, so I'm going to try to put an hour and 15 minutes into about 10 or 12 minutes. Obviously, not going to get to everything. So we talked about physical stress. We did a quick overview of the emotional stressors that we talked about in the first 2 weeks. A couple hours of information there. Talked about how these things are going to link up to physical stress. So in order to understand physical stress, I talked a little bit about the brain. I talked about the amygdala. I talked about the hypothalamus. And I talked about how this triggers basically a cascade of events in the body hormonally that puts us into a sympathetic state constantly. What do I mean by that? It means basically that when you look at your sympathetic nervous system, you're constantly sort of activating it by saying, okay, well, if I'm in traffic, if I'm running late, if I'm worried about my cell phone and who's texting me and the fact that there's somebody's calling me, and I'm constantly in this state of anticipation or anxiety, which our society creates very well for us. This is how most of us are. We're just constantly in demand. We're constantly running late, constantly checking our emails. This type of behavior all of the time puts us into a permanently sympathetic state, never mind all of the other things that we worry about. We worry about money, we worry about our kids, we worry about our health, we worry about all these things can go on and on. We talked about specifically what those hormones, which are being released, do to your blood. And long story short, we mapped them all out, but what are they doing? They're making your blood thicker, they're raising LDL, they're doing all of the things essentially that you're getting medicated for by your doctor. And again, this all has to do with emotional stress, which we talked about earlier. But what about the physical part? What do we mean by the physical stressors? Well, we first talked most specifically about posture. So just take a moment right now and look at how you're sitting, because you probably are sitting. You might be sitting in your car listening to me, you might be sitting at your desk, but the biggest thing I want you to take away from here, just to cut this short, because I'm not going to be able to talk about all the vertebrae of the spine and what nerves go where and how it's causing problems with your breathing and all that stuff, but it is. And digestion, it's causing all those problems because your spine is essentially an antenna, and it is sending nerve signals to all of the parts in your body that are necessary for function, including, like I just said, breathing and digestion. But if we just focus on those two things for a second, C6, C7 goes to your diaphragm, which is breathing. And again, if you just look down at how you're sitting at your chair right now, crunching down into your intestines, well, remember, the motility of the food in your gut relies on the musculature in your intestines to get that food through your body. How well is that happening if you're crunching down on your intestines all day long from sitting? And similarly, we talked about how normal diaphragmatic breathing actually helps the digestion process by essentially making this oscillation like this in your intestines. 30,000 breaths a day. If we were to fast forward it, you're going to look like this. It's going to oscillate the intestines in order to help the food get through your gut more efficiently, more effectively, sort of like squeezing a tube of toothpaste. We are creating these problems by sitting way too much, and we're sitting in bad posture. But it's not just sitting, it's how we sit. So if we sit with our legs crossed and to the left and the monitor's on the right, and we have a phone like this on our ear, and we're talking while we're looking to the right, we talked about how this messes with our vestibular system, and it is a very big deal. Like I said, I don't have time to go into it, but we talked about how the fascia shapes to how you're oriented in space by tilting your head so much to the left or to the right. And most people do in fact do this. They actually hold the phone either on their left ear or on their right ear way too much. How can we fix that? Simple. Put a headset on or use speakerphone. Get your monitor square to the keyboard, looking straight ahead. Put your feet flat on the floor. We also talked about just purchasing a standing desk. Does it mean that you have to stand all the time? No. It means that you can sit for 30 minutes and stand for 30 minutes, or any intermittent standing is good. So if you sit for 45 minutes and stand for 5 minutes, it's better than not standing at all. We talked about the monitor has to be straight ahead with your eyeballs, and all these little sort of things to make things better and more efficient. But these are, in fact, the physical stressors. When you contort your spine and do the things I'm describing here to your cervical spine, your lumbar spine, your thoracic spine, to breathing patterns, it creates problems. Remember, if we're breathing into our thoracic spine, these are supposed to be our thoracic cavity, these are supposed to be our accessory breathing muscles, meaning they're supposed to be used when we're labored in breathing. If we're breathing up here all the time and we're not breathing diaphragmically, the brain and body doesn't know the difference between running from a saber-toothed tiger or exercising vigilantly. So if you're sitting down, breathing into these accessory muscles while you're crunching down in your diaphragm and hunched over and looking at your cell phone and contorted, and you have no choice but to breathe from your thoracic cavity, this is creating the same hormones at a lesser level that increases these glucocorticoids that we've talked about in the past. These are stress hormones, and there are lots of them, don't get me wrong, epinephrine and all these things are stress hormones, but essentially you're telling your body that you need to use these accessory breathing muscles in order to breathe. Well, guess what? These are in fact muscles, and when you use them a lot, they get tighter and tighter. And when these muscles get tight, they're much more easily pulled. And I can't tell you how many times people pull these breathing muscles, and then they're not fun. So many of you have maybe been to the doctor where they told you that you've pulled what are called intercostal muscles, and these intercostal muscles, feels like you did something to your rib or your back. This is a function of having no mobility in your upper back, breathing into your chest way too much, and not breathing diaphragmically. Again, big picture here, these are part of physical stressors. So if you're moving in pain, if you're feeling pain, if you're breathing incorrectly, if you're sitting poorly, these are all forms of physical stress that create the same exact hormones that we've talked about in the past 2 weeks. Now, I described a few ways to mitigate those problems. Square up your desk, make sure you look straight ahead, try to get a standing desk, if you have an office call, get it on your headset or speakerphone, walk around the office instead of sitting at your desk on a phone call. Sleeping, when you're sleeping, remember, you're sleeping 7 or 8 hours a day. What's the posture of when you sleep? If you're sleeping with 3 pillows and your neck looks like this, it's a problem. Your neck needs to be neutral. I suggest you sleep on your side. If you have lower back pain, you should sleep with a pillow between your knees. It's a good idea to sleep with a pillow between your knees anyway to help keep your spine neutral. If you lay flat on your back, similarly, they make pillows that correct your spine. We've talked about it a little bit. If you're interested, just contact me and I'll let you know which pillows you could buy that help do this. But most people should not be sleeping on their stomachs, and most people should be sleeping on their side with one pillow that keeps your neck totally neutral and a pillow between your knees. If you have other stuff going on in your body like plantar fasciitis, or there's a few things that you could do while you sleep that help counterbalance other problems in your body. So it depends on who you are, what you have going on, but while you sleep is a great time to fix other things that you have happening there. So the whole point here now is when you exercise, if our bodies are mostly flexed and pronated all day, meaning we're sitting all day and we're doing this all day with our wrists and our fingers, we're on the phone, we're typing, we're driving, crossing our legs, we're in a bad way. So when we exercise, most of what we do should not be sitting in more machines moving parts, right? We should be standing, we should be moving, we should be breathing, we should be doing things that require our shoulders to move, our upper backs to move, exercise should be corrective. It doesn't mean that you can't lift heavy weight if your body is capable of it. It doesn't mean that you can't train hard, but your body has to be able to cash that check. And most people's bodies simply can't cash that check because they have not done all of the other prehab in order to do that. What does that mean? It means warming up properly, getting the tissue ready, and not just once or twice, but as part of a ritual, right? You come in and you do the things that you need to do in order for the body to be able to move. please appreciate for just a second that I'm on my feet 55 hours a week at the gym. And if you guys train with me, you know that I'm not sitting down training you guys on a stool, right? I'm standing next to you, I'm demonstrating exercises, I'm showing you what to do. My body, I promise you, I do the prehab, right? I'm doing the prehab just simply by being there. But think about the number of reps, the number of times I'm doing that every day per day. It's its own workout, right? So if you don't think that I'm sitting there, you know, walking my talk when I'm telling you how important it is to get really good hip extension and making sure that your shoulders do this and making sure that your neck does this and making sure your upper back does that. This is all day, every day, right? So I can't tell you guys how important it is to make sure that you get on your feet more, get more hip extension, get more supination in the body, make sure that you sit up straight, make sure your feet are planted flat on the floor when you sit. Make sure that you're breathing into your belly. We talked about a little bit about after you eat, how if you eat dinner and you just go right to bed, this is a problem. One good idea is to eat and then find a reason to walk around, meaning you could go clean up the kitchen and then shower, then brush your teeth. Just find reasons to delay getting into bed and stand up before you go to sleep, because most people are guilty of eating way too late at night. And this is just a bigger conversation, which we talked about in the fall. If you want mitochondrial dysfunction, keep doing that. Keep eating a lot of food and then going right to bed. It's a problem. So, big takeaways. Make sure your posture is good. Sit up straight. Try to buy a standing desk. Even if you use it for 10 minutes every hour, it's better than nothing. Make sure that the monitor's straight ahead. Buy yourself a headset or speakerphone so that you're not contorting your neck. Making sure that when you exercise, you come in, you warm up, you get that hip extension going. Make sure that you're not sitting during your exercises. Make sure you're breathing and using all of the things available to you to make sure that you are mitigating the problems that you have all day, which is pronation and supination. When you sleep, make sure your neck is straight. Make sure you sleep with a pillow between your knees. If you have things like plantar fasciitis, there are things that you can get to put on your feet to help while you sleep. And try not to eat too late at night. Try to stand after you eat. Bunch of other stuff we covered, but that's enough for today. All right, guys, have a good day.